Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Crypto Warehouse. We're going to be live in about 45 seconds, just doing a little bit of a sound check, making sure everything is working. I have tried to boost the audio as much as possible. So hopefully I'm a little bit louder when we start. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to a new week, October the 20th, 11 a.m. Central European Time, 9 a.m. UTC. I hope you're all doing incredibly well. We have a busy show today. It is, of course, the chart day today. We're going to have a look at Bitcoin dominance. We're going to have a look at the DXY. We're going to have a look at total market cap. We're going to see where we are. Are we going, as Andrew Tate says, to $26,000 for Bitcoin? No. Are we going to go to $500,000 like CZ says? Nope. So we're going to try and find somewhere in the middle where we think we could end up going. I have been watching a lot of different YouTube content creators over the last few days to try and get an average price of what they think. And probably the most surprising one of all that I'm going to cover today is Ben Cowen and his theory on the 4-year cycle, which we're going to go through in a minute. Because although I don't disagree with him, I think I'm thinking of it in a different way than he's thinking of it. So we're going to go through that. Also, a little bit of housekeeping. The Mew night will be live on Binance Square this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central European Time. Now, what we did last week with Wolfies was we chose 5 user IDs from the Binance Square chat. And then on, I think it was the Friday or the Thursday, I produced a video with a spin that picked the 5 winners. And then I sent them all their prizes on Saturday. So we're going to do the same thing again this Wednesday. So there's going to be 5 winners of the Mew quiz on Binance Square this Wednesday. Now, you can't physically play on the quiz because there's no interaction. I think the Binance Square stream is 30 seconds behind live, so you really can't play the quiz. But we can still do a giveaway and we can still give you prizes. And if you're in the other place, we're going to have top 3 for Mew. Okay, now Mew, the prize pool isn't as big as it was for the Wolfies last week, so don't expect to win oodles of cash, but there will still be a giveaway and there will still be a quiz on Wednesday. Now, that being said, a few good mornings to people in chat. We've got Kishan, Bullish Bull, Hidden is here. KB is here, Danny is here, and Solo Sky is here. Solo Sky, do not forget, this week is the Meteora airdrop. Now, you're not going to get the tokens in your wallet. You're not going to get anything other than an NFT. That NFT represents your airdrop that you will be able to get on Meteora. Okay, so don't delete it. And you can go to Meteora and probably unstake it and sell it there. But it's an NFT airdrop. That is how you get your prize. Apart from that, what are we going to talk about today? Well, apart from the charts, we have a lot to cover. We've got some X-Files to cover. We're going to look at Rescue Me. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about Treasured and Ethereum. We're going to talk about the big reveal from Solana today. And I'm going to give you my clues as to what I think that's going to be. We're going to talk about the Genius Fund. That is something that BlackRock have launched. We're going to talk about Family Feud, which is to do with World Liberty Financials, HBAR IDs, and that's pretty much your show, I think. I think so. That's pretty much the show. All of that and some X-Files, and I think, really, we should probably just go straight in and look at the prices. Now, 11, 11, 11. Okay, that's never a good sign when the time is almost 11:11. Could you imagine 11:11:11 at 11:11? Bitcoin is coming in. It's up nearly 5% over the last 24 hours. People put that down to Trump talking about meeting with Z on the 29th or the 31st. I can't remember what day it is. Sometime towards the end of this month. We knew that was going to happen. We knew that 2 weeks ago that it was going to happen on that date. But of course, tweets happen. Trump talks, markets pump. But we were always going to do this, and we are at a very critical price. We could do the M&M move down. We're going to look at that in a minute. Ethereum back over $4,000. BNB 11.22. XRP hanging around at $2.50. That took a little bit of a hammering, didn't it? Solana is just under $200. Tron, Dogecoin, we don't like those coins. Cardano back at 67 cents. Decent price. Hyperliquid at $38.50 is really not a bad price for Hyperliquid. Chainlink at $18.72 is a good price. Sui, Bitcoin Cash, Avalanche not doing too badly either. Gainers then in the last 24 hours, we have Synthetics is up, SPX 6900, Zcash is still on a bit of a good run. ASI, now ASI has been pumping and I've no idea why. I've seen a lot in the news about it. It pumped on Saturday as well, I think. Excuse me. So I don't know why that's pumping. Chainlink is up a bit. Again, I've put a tweet out, which I'm going to cover in a second, about what I call bouncers. Not the people that stand outside a nightclub and not let you in because you've got white socks on, but the tokens that recover the fastest after a correction. And I call them bouncers. And these are solid projects that do really well after Bitcoin has had a correction to the downside. And these are the projects, you've got to think about this. If you've got several 100,000 investors looking at the market and you have got now thousands of tokens to look at, which ones do you pick? Well, they are obviously going into the tokens which they think are going to have the biggest return from the bottom. And you see really good projects in there. Aerodrome is not called Aerodrome. It's called Aerodrome under $1 as a steal. That's the name of the token. I like that project. I don't hold any of it. Mantle is up there. Chainlink is up there. ASI, I still hold my bag of that. That hasn't changed, although that should really be north of a few dollars. Don't know why it's so low. Dupe is recovering. Bonk. Kronos is up a decent amount. And they are the coins that people are buying now, expecting it to go on to higher prices. So they're the coins you should be looking at. Now, at the other end, it's a green day, so we're not going to see too many near the bottom. Gold is down there. The dollars are down there. Not really a lot down there. The tokens that haven't moved then are the likes of, Flare. Can't mention too many names on here. Monero hasn't really moved. Plasma is, for me, a very good blockchain, and it's going to be a used blockchain. It's not one of these zombie chains which doesn't do anything. So for me, Plasma is a good pick. Other coins down there that I can see that haven't really recovered, not too... I mean, everything's green. It's hard to pick them out. So you want to be looking up here. And these are kind of like stable coins and gold, so it doesn't really matter. So overall, green day, look at the bouncers, see where we go from there. And of course, we know it wouldn't be a Sunday and it wouldn't be a Monday without the man himself, would it? The man himself came out. I think I've mistyped that. Let me try that again. There we go. The man himself came out. The most important orange dot is always the next orange dot. The same way the most important Fed meeting is the next Fed meeting. Now, Saylor's been on a bit of a campaign to basically buy as much Bitcoin as possible. And the question you should ask yourself is, if all of these people are buying Bitcoin on a weekly basis, why aren't you? Why aren't you buying Bitcoin? Why aren't you buying it, dollar cost averaging into it every week? If Saylor can do it, and he holds probably now $70 billion worth of it, why aren't you? Now, at some point, we're going to get to the end of the bull run, but that's not the end of Bitcoin. You could hold Bitcoin for the next 20 years. The bull run is irrelevant. It only really matters to your bag of alts. Now, Wallet, known as Trump Insider, just opened a $230 million long ahead of the big week. His win rate, or her win rate, so far is 100%, and now he's longing Bitcoin and Ethereum. ETF approval does he know early? My argument would be that this is Baron Trump. Maybe it isn't, but I would say it's somebody close to Baron Trump. He knows what he's talking about. Right, this is what's coming up over the next few days. You've got a lot of the XRP deadlines coming and going. Now, of course, we've got a government lockdown, but on here you have a lot of XRP bullish news to come out. And again, is XRP going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news? Maybe. We're at $2.50 though. If these ETFs are approved, are we going to see a short-term correction below $2? Maybe. Maybe we are. Solana, though, won't be too far behind. I think the Solana ETF is going to be approved pretty much on the same day. Maybe you need to keep an eye on that one as well. But again, I don't think we're at prices where we're going to correct too far down. I don't think we're going to see $120 Solana when it goes live. Now, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETP, which is basically the UK equivalent of an ETF, is going to go live today in London for retail investors. The rules in the UK, we covered them 2 weeks ago. They changed the rules to allow retailers to get into, or retail investors, sorry, to get into Bitcoin. This goes live today. Don't expect anything from this. Maybe there's about, I don't know, 20 or 30 million pounds worth of volume on day one, if that. I would argue that anybody that wanted to get into Bitcoin via a spot position or via an ETF already holds those positions. I held Grayscale from 2021 and I only sold it in May when we topped. So I held that for 4 years, and UK based, you know, it's one of those things. So I don't think that's going to do massive business. Now, again, it's silly season, and we're going to talk about silly season a little bit more in a minute when I show you some price charts. Silly season is where you see prices which simply are not going to happen. Binance founder CZ thinks Bitcoin will top between $500 to $1 million this cycle. Now, the only way I see this happening is if the cycle top is not this year. If the cycle top, and I haven't listened to this entire podcast, if the cycle top happens to be outside of the realm of the 4-year cycle, then maybe. But we are not going to get a $500,000 Bitcoin or a $200,000 Bitcoin in this cycle. Unless something absolutely dramatic happens, it's not going to happen. So I'm not quite sure of why CZ is picking those prices, because that's as bullish as everybody else. So I'm not too sure why we would be looking at that. However, we shall move on. And we are going to talk about Syrup. Now, I talked to you at the very beginning about bouncers. Coins that bounce back the most after the market has had a bit of a dip. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to run on to go on to all-time highs. We're talking about tokens that fall with the market and then recover faster than Bitcoin. And Syrup, the Syrup chart, which I've put on here, which is quite hard for you to see. I'm just going to give you some numbers. It bottomed at 32 cents, which was a week last Friday, and then recovered within 4 days to hit 46 cents. So that was a 44% increase in 4 days. That pushed it towards the top of the bull market support band, at which point it got rejected and came back down. Hitting the bull market support band and coming back down is going to be an important thing for you to remember in a minute when we look at the Bitcoin chart. But this token, for me, I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to go to $1 next week. It's got to break that bull market support band, which is at the minute 43 to 45 cents. And if we have a correction, and if Bitcoin breaks back down from where we are today to hit 101, 100,000, then it's going to go back to 32 cents. It's impossible to look at a token and say this is going to go on to do $1 if Bitcoin is going to have a 10% correction to the downside, because that simply isn't going to happen. Now, last one before we go. This is the season where you're going to start to see lots of people giving you massive price targets for your tokens. And just to put some of these into context, from here, this is a 2x for Bitcoin. This is a 2.5x for Ethereum. Again, not outside of the realms of possibility, but at the very, very, very extreme end. I don't think Ethereum is going to go higher than $8,000 or $9,000, but there you go. XRP at $7. $5 to $7 was my target, so we're okay. But then we start to get into silly season. A $900 Solana from where we are now. $15 for Sui from where we are now. $125 for Link from where we are now. These are starting to become massively unrealistic targets that I'm not picking on Wiseow or whatever, anything like that. This is about the fifth one I've seen, and I've been tweeting them out. And I think genuinely all of these targets here could be halved within reason, which is what I've said. Half everything apart from Bitcoin. I think genuinely you could see a $5,500 top for Ethereum. You could see a $3.50 top for XRP, a $450 top for Solana. And I think they are more realistic. Doesn't mean realistic is going to happen. Maybe we go higher. But you can't promise the earth and then deliver a ham sandwich. You've got to give people realistic expectations. And some of these are way higher than expected. Again, I don't think he meant to put that. And if he did, it's a joke. I think he was probably targeting $10 for Ondo. So again, these are extreme ends. Now, the bull run may surprise all of us, including me. And maybe we do go a lot higher than I expect. But I'd rather under-promise than over-promise. And I think if you go into the end of this bull run thinking that we're going to hit all of those targets and you're going to become a millionaire, we might have topped in October. We might have topped in September, sorry. We might not top. This could be at 126,000, could be the top. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying the alts may not run as high or as far as possible. Now, that is Market Watch, which is not loading. So basically, Market Watch, I was going to show you what was coming up for the week. We're not going to bother with that. We're not looking at liquidations either. There's no point in looking at that. Let's start off with the DXY then. Again, we don't need to spend too long on this. How is the dollar doing? Hang on one second. There we go. So, I think this is the DXY, isn't it? Yeah, this is the DXY. I think we may have bottomed here. And I think we're going to be in this range for a little while. Maybe we don't go back up, but I think 100 is pretty much where I was expecting us to go, which we got to 99.5. This is the 1 hour. That's probably why I can't see it very well. There we go. Sorry, there's people coming in and out of the room, so it's a bit distracting. Right, so when we talk about a lot of these tokens, what do we want them to do? We want them to break through the bull market support band, use it as support, and then go back up. That appears to be what the DXY is doing. The DXY is going to go volatile the day after or the day of the meeting with Z. So Trump and Z are probably going to come together, meet, and have some kind of discussion. And that discussion is either going to be, it's all great, as I said on Friday, I'm not going to go over this again, or it's going to be, we haven't come to an agreement yet. And I think the dollar is going to move on that date. So if we put this in here, they are going to be meeting around about that date. And I expect the DXY to get to this point and then either dump to the downside and the dollar lose its value, or it's going to go back towards 100. Just give me 1 second. There appears to be one of my dogs is stuck in the room with me. Good morning, Solo Sky. It'll either hit $10 or $1. Yeah, maybe. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. There we go. I am back. My dog was squeaking at the door like some kind of bus. Back to where we were. So I think the DXY is going to get to a point where it decides where it's going to go. Probably in the next 8 to 9 days. And again, it's only a small signal, but it is worth keeping an eye on the DXY, because I think the DXY is... I think Trump wants to force it down. I think Trump wants a weaker dollar, and I think that's what he's going to get. But we need to wait and see. Now, Bitcoin dominance. I don't know why all of my charts have decided to suddenly go to the 1 hour. Okay. Bitcoin dominance is in a bottom. So we've bottomed here. And now, as you can see, we've got this trend line that we probably added maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And now we're starting to see Bitcoin dominance come up. And again, we're going to move this white line to, I'd say, about there. Okay? Now, the reason I'm going to put it there is that's the very beginning of November. And I think if we keep this trend, we are going to come into the bottom of this area where we got rejected before. So, I think we're going to get to the end of November and Bitcoin dominance will probably start to break down. That's what I see. At some point, either the cycle breaks or we get the end of the cycle. One of those two things. So that's what I'm expecting from Bitcoin dominance. I think we've seen a really steady increase. And of course, we obviously had our Black Friday, which was now a week and a half ago. That's where it absolutely skyrocketed, but now we're back on that zone. And this tends to happen with tokens as well. You see these blow off tops and I'll tell you to take profits and then you won't, and then it'll come back down to the same trend line it was on. That's just the way it works. It's the way the market is. So Bitcoin dominance is looking okay. We'll look at the total market cap, then we'll look at the Bitcoin price, and then we will get on with the rest of the show. I don't want to spend too long on the charts because we could literally spend an hour going through each of those charts, and it really isn't necessary. So this is the total market cap of crypto. Now, this has gone through somewhat of a traumatic period. We broke above this level here. We didn't hold. And like a lot of things that we are looking at, whether it be Syrup hitting its bull market support band and coming down, whether we look at the Bitcoin dominance, whether heading towards its own moving average, whether we look at the total market cap, again, look at what has happened. We fell, basically, spiraled out of control. But one thing we always talk about is get back above the bull market support band and then use it as support to move up. And what have we done is we have got back above the bull market support band, and what is important right now is that we don't just roll over and come back down again. Okay? That is the most important thing that we need to do. And what we want to see is we want to see this, where we bounce off what we've just broken through and move to the upside. It's not guaranteed. Nothing in life is guaranteed. And if you to ask me, I would say we are going to move down. And the reason I'm going to say that is we're going to go and look at the Bitcoin chart now. And Bitcoin, much as it looks like it's had a nice little bounce, it hasn't. Because what I see happening is, if I get rid of some of these, this was the M&M pattern that I drew for Telegram today to basically show you where we were. I said in chat that we needed to break above this level here. This is about $113,000. That's the top of the bull market support band. We've broken into the very bottom of the bull market support band, and we are starting to come down again. Now, if you look at kind of dead cat bounces or failed rallies, whatever you want to call it, you see this kind of action where it tries to recover and then it tries to hold support and then it breaks down and then it breaks down. Now, we are at that point where, yes, we've had a good recovery, but it was on a Sunday. America isn't open for another 3 or 4 hours. Where is America going to take us? Well, it's Monday, so it's a fake out Monday. And what we could see today is a move back into this area or up to here and rejection and come down. I don't think we're out the woods yet as far as the market's concerned. I think the market is a little bit shaky still. But we could, for example, do this, which would be great. And then instead of having this downward movement, we have an upward movement. Or we failed to break into the bull market support band and we just come straight back down. And if we do come down, then I do think we are going to start to break down towards this level down here, which is coming in about 101,000, 101,500. That's worst case scenario for me, 101,000. I know there are people watching this. The Oracle himself is talking about 97, 98,000. I know that. But in my opinion, I think if we hold where we are, then we've bottomed. If this is the worst of it and we recover, then we recover. And we've been in this situation before where we've been down there. We were down there at 49,000. We were down there at 76,000. We've been there before where we have these shocks to the market and then the market takes a long time to recover. I think it took 6 weeks for the market to recover from 49,000 to 108, 109,000, wherever it was. So it's going to take some time. This was only, how many days ago? If we go back, 8 days, 9 days, 10 days ago. So we've still got a while to recover. And I just would like to see us up here. That's where I want to see us, in that area there. But this is starting to look like we're going to come down a little bit. And again, Mondays in America, in this type of environment, I would not be longing in shorting. And I know that a few people watching have been making a lot of money out of longing Bitcoin in the last day or so. Congratulations. And I know a lot of you watched the Oracle stream on Saturday, and he was talking about this price action. So if you've made a lot of money out of that, congratulations. But me, I stay away from Mondays. I stay away from Fed meeting days. I stay away from when Trump does anything to do with a microphone or a keyboard, and just stay clear of them because the volatility will wreck you, especially if you're in leverage. If you're in spot, then you don't need to worry about it. But I would stay away from leverage this afternoon because at 3 o'clock, we could be back at 105,000, 106,000. I don't know where we're going to go today because the market is still recovering from the shock. If it was a normal day, I would say Monday sets the tone for the rest of the week. So if we have a move up on Monday, we'll spend the rest of the week coming down. If we dump today, we'll spend the rest of the week going up. I don't know what's going to happen on Monday. I have no idea. Maybe there's an announcement, maybe there isn't. Good morning, Manjeet. I hope you're well. Get the dog on the live stream now. Yes, I have I post the dog on X. You've seen the dog. It's a brindle Chihuahua, and I was never a dog. I'm never a fan of Chihuahuas. I'm not a fan of small dogs, but this is a little brindle Chihuahua, and this thing isn't like one of these little kind of ratty dogs. This has got real personality. But when it gets trapped in a room, it sounds like a bus that's about to brake and pull up at a bus stop, and it just squeaks. So it got locked in the room, and that's why I was distracted at the beginning of the stream, because it was just squeaking, and so I had to get up and let it out. But anyway, I will post another picture of the dog. In fact, you know what I'll do? I'll post a picture of the dog on Binance Square, because the dog went long at 101,000, 104,000. The dog went long. Dog made me a fortune during the bull run. During the correction. You always got to back a dog. A dog will know more than an octopus when it comes to trading. And to be fair, most people should follow their animals more when it comes to trading, because they'll always tell you to sell and buy snacks. And if you sold all of those times you were in profit and bought snacks, you'd probably have more money than you'd have now. Anyway, should we move on? So I think Bitcoin's at a crucial juncture. We can break down from here, and if we do, maybe we come back down to this level here, which is 107,000. But I don't think until we break 113,000, I'm not going to be happy. Under the bull market, support band for me is bearish. Above the bull market, support band for me is bullish. We're in a bearish territory, which you could argue is a good place to buy. And I will agree with you. Now, we're going to talk about Ben. Now, we're going to read through this and I'm going to tell you what Ben Cowan has had to say. So, Bitcoin weekly close must hit 108,000 to rescue key demand area, which we've done. Of course, we've done it. We've just broken above it. We're now at 111,000. We don't need to talk about liquidations. You know what? The liquidation chart is irrelevant. We've seen $20 billion in liquidations on that Monday when I streamed, or Saturday, sorry, when I streamed. We're never going to see that for a long time. That was a black swan. Never going to see that again. What's the point of looking at $400 million in liquidations? It's ridiculous. So Bitcoin can keep the bull market range in play if it gets to 108.4. Volatility increases into the weekly close as thin order books see the liquidations drop to absolutely nothing. I think there was a few people talking about the order book on Sunday night being really thin. Volume wasn't great, and we basically have pumped without the volume. So when we go into today, we could very well see the ETFs buy 3,000 or 4,000 Bitcoin today and push the price up. Depends on the sentiment of them. Depends on the sentiment of the market. I really don't know where we're going to go at this moment in time. In the long term, I still think we can easily break 130,000 by the end of the month. Absolutely. We just need another few good weeks. But I don't think we're going down to 26 or 46 or $86,000 unless something else happens. I think we're in a good place. We're going to stick around this price until the market decides where it's going to go. So Bitcoin price volatility, more of that to come. Cointelegraph, Market Pro, and TradingView showed it hitting 108,000. Volatility definitely high here due to the thin books on this massive market flush. Looking at liquidation data, Dan Crypto Trades predicted the volatility would continue for a while. Yeah. Books are thin, especially after the market liquidation event. This, combined with weekend price action, a lot of emotional traders, makes for relatively volatile moves on low timeframes. So, I mean, I think I like a market that isn't over-leveraged. And what we saw, as we said this on Friday and Saturday, was the decks were cleaned. Okay, we cleaned the decks. It was a lot. And I think a lot of people have been stung and lost a lot of money and maybe won't go into too much leverage. But you never know. Somebody that's lost 9 million and has got $1 million left, they'll just go 20x long and try and win it all back. That's gambling. That's not investment. Now, what Ben has had to say, and again, I agree with where he's coming from because he's using data, so you can't disagree with data. He's talking about the fact that the S&P and a lot of other markets are on a 4-year cycle. Now, that 4-year cycle, you can attach anything you want to it. Why did Man United beat Liverpool at Anfield? You could say Liverpool played badly. You could say Man United played well. You could say the referee decisions. You could say a good individual player. There are many, many reasons that you could argue that that match ended 2-1 to Manchester United. And you'd be right, because that's your point of view. When you use facts, and when you use data, irrefutable data, then you have to listen to what the person has to say because it's not opinion. And Ben has been pointing out that there's a 4-year cycle on the S&P and Bitcoin is following a similar pattern. And maybe it's tied into the presidential election campaign. Maybe it's tied into other things. And my argument to that would be Satoshi knew all of this. Satoshi knew that the stock market had a 4-year cycle. Satoshi knew the presidential elections were every 4 years. And mathematically, every 4 years you have the halving of the rewards. But my argument would be that way back when the halving actually made an impact on the price of Bitcoin, that was probably the cause for the 4-year cycle. And as we get further and further into the halvings, it makes no difference anymore. The halving is irrelevant in terms of the amount of Bitcoin being produced. It's irrelevant. We're at 19.3 million out of 21 million or something like that. We're seeing hardly any emissions on Bitcoin. Minor difficulty at all-time highs. But Satoshi knew that the markets were tied to a 4-year cycle, and probably to do with the presidential elections in America. He knew all of that. Just because it's confluence doesn't make it the reason it happens. He created the Bitcoin 4-year halving cycle, and maybe he made that knowing that the 4-year cycle already existed, and he was trying to tie Bitcoin into the markets. But again, you can look at the data and you can interpret it how you want. The 4-year cycle tying into the American elections campaign, you can say when a prime minister or when a president gets towards the election, what you will find, you will see 4 years in an average term. Year 1, when they've just come in, will either be they will pump money in to make themselves look good, or they will carry out massive cuts because they have to do all of the damage in year 1. And then year 2 and 3, it absorbs whatever they do. And then in year 4, what they will do is they will have a pre-election budget where they will rip the markets to the upside. Because ripping the markets to the upside with cuts in interest rates or cuts in taxes or giving people more money back or making people feel wealthier all fuels their election campaign. So I can sit here and say to you, do you know what, KB? When I came in, you were paying £5,000 a year in tax. And today, 4 years later, you're only paying £4,000 a year in tax. I'm the guy you need to vote for. And then KB will look at his bank balance and go, you know what? That Mike is a real stand-up guy. I'm going to vote for him. The opposition can't do anything about it. At all. Absolutely nothing. So in America, you can see the same thing. Trump's come in and he's absolutely crushing everything in the American government. He's crushing tariffs, taxes, departments, everything, because it's year 1. Because he knows he's got 3 more years or 2.5 more years or whatever it works out as before the next election. So he's absolutely hammering everything. Actually, no, it's 3 years. 3 years next month he's got. Hammering everything because he knows he has to do all of the shock now. So then he can spend the next 2 years building on that shock. And then at the end of year 3, he can come out and go, there's a load of stimmy checks. You're now all rich. I am the orange man. Vote for JD Vance over here or vote for whoever over here. So maybe Satoshi knew all of this. Maybe Satoshi knew that he had to time the Bitcoin cycle to coincide with the markets and the presidential election campaign, because it doesn't really matter if he times it. It doesn't matter if he times it with the French or the German or the UK elections. The one that matters is the American election. And it ties in. So maybe it's not a case of, well, Bitcoin's halving cycle doesn't matter. Maybe it's a case of the Bitcoin halving cycle was created to fit in with the existing system. And that's the way I would look at it. And again, mathematically, you can look at the halving and you can so many blocks and so many minutes. And yes, that works. But maybe it was started at the right time to coincide with everything. So that's what I would argue. But again, if you listen to him, one of the things he was saying about the tops for Bitcoin, he has got, I think, 40% conviction in an October all-time high. I think he said 20% for November and 40% for December. Now, if we are lagging behind, I will agree with that December all-time high, because my top, which is based solely on the date of my wife's birthday, which is November the 24th, the 2021 all-time high was November the 24th. And I remember that because it was her birthday. So I just added 4 years on and said 24th of November, 2025 is the top. And that is simply how I did it. Now, if I'm wrong, which I clearly will be because it's never going to be the same date, then we could look at the 5th or 6th of December. We could look at the 10th or 11th of November. It doesn't matter. It's now. It's soon. Okay? And what also happens with the 4-year cycle is you have the midterm elections in America and the markets get depressed and the markets retract. So whatever you think is going to happen to Bitcoin, we are going to come down next year. Now, it might not come down in January the 1st. It might be June or August or October next year, but we will be down. And the next thing to bear in mind, from all-time highs to all-time lows is about a year. So if we top, for example, let's say we top on the 24th of November this year, the bottom will be about the 24th of November next year. Now, as I've said before, we're shallowing out. We're shallowing out because Bitcoin's market cap is getting higher and higher. So when we top, let's say we top at 160, there's a really good chance we bottom at 90 to 100 or 110 maybe. Maybe we don't come down anywhere near the 60%, 70% that we have done in the past because the market cap's so much higher. So when we talk about the bottom of the bear market next year, we're not talking about us going back to $20,000. $20,000 was the previous cycle, but maybe we do come down to 90s, 100, whatever it might be. And think about that, from 150 or 160,000, that's a 40% drawdown. I think that's absolutely sufficient, if not slightly aggressive, move for Bitcoin. Because if you take any chart, you look at Tesla or Amazon or any of those charts, the volatility is on the left. And then as it gets to a bigger and bigger market cap towards the right, those peaks and troughs shallow out over time. And I think that's what Bitcoin's going to do. I think we're going to have shallower and shallower tops and shallower bottoms. You look at where we've come from. I can't remember the exact bottom, $18,000. We've hit $126,000. I don't know what that is, a 6x, a 7x. And people said there's no return on Bitcoin. There's a return on Bitcoin if you buy from the bottom. The same with XRP. You buy XRP at 30 cents and it went to $3, let's say $3.60. It did a 12x. So when people say we've not had a bull run, we've not had alt season, whatever, well, we have, just not on everything. We've had it on BNB. We've had it on XRP. We've had it on Bitcoin. We've had it on Ethereum. So we already have a lot of coins that have reached Nirvana, just not enough. It's not Nirvana 2.0, is it? So anyway, talking of Ethereum, Bitmain adds another 379,000 Ethereum to its holdings, expanding world's largest Ethereum treasury. Again, only if you're looking at investing in this stuff, and this isn't financial advice, I would not look past any treasury that is outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And even Ethereum, I wouldn't go heavy in. I think this is a black swan. Not Tom Lee and Bitmain, but treasuries are a black swan, because at some point in a bear market, everything's rosy now in a bull run, but in the bear market, when everything is down 90%, shareholders are going to want to know why they invested in SUI at $3 and it's now 25 cents. And they're going to want to know where 90% of their money's gone. And then we're going to see all hell break loose. And I don't think that will apply to Bitcoin. It will apply to Ethereum to some extent. It will definitely apply to everything else. A Solana one, for example, we could easily come back to $100 or $80 in Solana. Of course we can. So what's the treasury going to do then? Are they going to diamond hand a treasury that's down 60% for 4 years? I don't know. I wouldn't touch them with a barge pole. So Lee believes the worst may be behind us and Ethereum could emerge as the biggest winner. It won't emerge as the biggest winner. It will emerge as a winner, but it won't be the biggest winner. His comments come as blockchain data reveals a surge in large-scale ETH accumulation led by Bitmain Immersion Technologies, which has quietly added nearly 380,000 ETH this week. They already added 200,000 ETH on that dip, so I don't know if this is additional or including that. The latest purchases spanning 3 transactions represent $1.5 billion, according to data from Arkham. Again, they're going to be the alpha Ethereum treasury. Tom Lee is going to be the Michael Saylor of Ethereum, and I think he'd be quite happy to be called the Michael Saylor of Ethereum because he's made it. The same way that a Solana treasury, if he becomes the Michael Saylor or she becomes the Michael Saylor of Solana, that's what they want to be because he is the top dog at the minute. The air is already coming out of that bubble. He was talking about the market. He believes the correction could ultimately filter out weak hands while rewarding disciplined firms with smart capital strategies. Again, we don't want to talk too much about this. What I would say is, I think everybody's calling for an uptick in Ethereum, and I still stick by the staking rewards for the Ethereum ETF. I think that's going to be a massive catalyst. Should have happened by now. It hasn't. Government shutdown hasn't helped at all. But I think staking rewards on ETFs are going to be the next big narrative. It doesn't matter whether you think it's going to dramatically change in terms of giving a salesman the ability to sell a product. It's massive. So instead of a salesman going to you and saying, you need to buy Bitcoin and you need to buy Ethereum, Ethereum is great, and somebody saying, well, I just want Bitcoin. At the minute, it's like, well, yeah, but Ethereum's got the same cost base as Bitcoin. And then the person saying, well, long term, I still want Bitcoin. Now they'll be able to go to them and say, you will be able to get this ETF and it won't cost you a dime. It won't cost you a cent. And you're going to get 2% in Ethereum every single month. Oh, sorry. No, every single year. Not every single month. 2% over a year. So then it suddenly goes from it costing them 0.5%, 0.25%, to them making 2% a year. And that is a big shift. But what's going to be the real interesting point is what happens with Solana, which will be paying out, I imagine, 4 or 5%, because that's going to be a real game changer. People are going to look at it and say, what is Bitcoin? Store of value. What is Ethereum? It's going to be the DeFi capital of crypto. BlackRock are going to be there. What's Solana? It's the retail capital. It's the retail outlet. I want Solana as well. And what's going to be interesting is seeing what happens to the price action of Solana if Solana goes live with staking rewards. Because again, we don't know. The government shutdown is delaying everything. The Litecoin ETF is being delayed. The new Bitcoin ETFs are being delayed. Everything's being delayed. But again, I think this is bullish for Ethereum. I think Tom Lee is going to make his investors an awful lot of money. But I do think that we need to be careful wishing. It's like that Oprah Winfrey meme where she's throwing her hands in the air. Treasuries for everybody. Not everything needs a treasury. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That needs to be out there a lot more than it is. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about Solana. And something massive is happening today that we know absolutely nothing about. I'm just going to read the chat for 1 second. Manjeet, what to do on Monday? Nothing. I would do nothing on Monday. What is happening to Fetch? Absolutely nothing. Again, it's happening to Fetch. It hasn't done anything. I think the price action is due to something that we don't know about yet. What else is there? Good morning, Tariq. I hope you are well. By the end of the year, Ethereum will hit 5K. I think I've got 5K definitely on the horizon. But the question is, will it go above 6 or 7K? That's the question. If we are going to have a traditional bull run, then 5K is really not that high for Ethereum. If we're going to have a traditional bull run, then $3.50 is not high for XRP or Solana's price or Cardano's price. If we're not going to have a traditional bull run and it's just going to be Bitcoin led for the next 4 years and it's just going up and to the right, slower but going up and to the right, then when alt season? If we don't have the traditional market, when do we get alt season? I think we need an alt season. I think we might get an alt season. I think we might not get an alt season. But I think some of these prices, where we are now, are going to move to the upside. Just bear in mind the 2021 bull run round-tripped in 5 weeks. And it round-tripped from the 30th or the 29th of October to about the 6th of December. And everything was about the price it is today in terms of most altcoins, not the ones like BNB. So I made an OG video about this, actually. I don't know if it came out on Friday or when I added it, but I've done an OG video about this and I talked about it in that video. And I was saying, we can sit here on the 25th of October and have a $160 Solana. And then we could sit here on the 25th of November and have a $550 Solana. It can be that quick, and it has been that quick, and it's been that quick in consecutive bull runs. And until we get to the point where it happens or it doesn't happen, it's very difficult to say. We don't know. Based on the cycle we do, but if everything else starts to fall apart and the cycle starts to break down, then maybe not. But still, if we did have the bull run, if we did have a bull run similar to 2021, then yes, we see Ethereum higher than $5,000. We see XRP higher than $4 or $5. We see Cardano higher than $2 or $3. We see those things. But until it happens, which sounds ridiculous, I know, but until it happens, we don't know. But alt season, when it comes, you will absolutely know about it. And what do you need to do when alt season arrives? Sell your bags. Sell them. If you see all-time highs starting to pop up on your coins, that's alt season. And then you have to sell. Because if you don't, this time next year, when your Solana is $90 and your XRP is 85 cents, you're going to sit there going, why didn't I sell? Why did I not sell? And that's the thing to avoid, because the higher the prices go, the greedier you're going to get. So you have to mentally prepare yourselves to sell. Maybe you don't sell your Bitcoin. Maybe you're holding that for the next 20 years. That's fine. That's a separate case. If we start to see $5,500, $6,500, $6,000 Ethereum, you need to take something off the table. If we start to see $400 or $500 Sol, you've got to take something off the table. You've got to, because that might be the top. And if we go on to all-time highs and we go even further and we go even further and we go even further, as long as you're taking a chunk off the table every time, you're not going to feel absolutely demoralized when the price comes down. So if you manage to sell 60% of your Sol bags at $400 or $500, $500, $600, whatever it goes to, you'll feel a lot better about yourself than if you don't sell anything and it's back at $90. And that's the way to look at it. And you're never going to time the top. No one is going to time the top apart from Richard Hart. Okay? He's the only man alive that's ever timed the top. And he did that by calling the top on about 180 consecutive days and then deleting 179 tweets and videos. Anyone can do that. But Solana consolidates near $190 as market awaits Solana's big reveal tomorrow. So today, something absolutely massive is happening. I have no idea what this could be, but I've got some guesses. Traders eye $200 with a major October 20 reveal hinting at a Solana payment card. Solana is regaining market strength as traders eye potential breakout, while community braces for a major announcement. The project's official X account posted a short teaser showing a stacked glowing cards with a payment chime. Now, again, we don't know what this is. We have no idea what this is. Is this going to be Google Pay, Apple Pay? Are we going to see Solana Pay? Okay, because if we are, that's going to be amazing. If we're going to see a Solana-powered Visa and MasterCard, that really isn't that exciting. Because if we are, that's what everybody else can do. You know, Binance has got its own card. Oh, for the love of baby. Binance has got its own card. Many others have got their own cards. You can buy a box of cereal in America and you get a free card. It's not exciting. It's got to be something exciting coming out of Solana. Now, if it is exciting and it is really, really bullish, it is going to drive revenue and volume into Solana. Okay? If they have Solana Pay, which is my bet, by the way, if they have Solana Pay and it goes onto a waiting list, you are going to see announcements, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million people waiting for Solana Pay. And that's going to be massively bullish news because it's going to make Solana look massively in demand. And that's the only thing that would excite me. If it's a card, I don't care about a card. I don't care about a card. The Winklevoss brothers, they launched their own XRP card, didn't they? I think something like that. Everyone's got a card. I don't care. Show me something exciting. Solana has always been the exciting blockchain. That's why everybody's so bullish on it. It's always got exciting things. Of course it's full of crap. Of course it's got pump.fun. Of course it's got meme coins. But it's always had excitement. I want to see Solana Pay, and if it's not Solana Pay, I think it's a waste of time, in my humble opinion. But I don't think if it's a Solana card, I don't think it's going to dump the price. But I think if it's something like Solana Pay, then I think that will be bullish for Solana. So I don't think there's much downside on it, but I think there's some upside on it. Now, BlackRock launches Genius Act-aligned fund to support stablecoin reserve demand. Again, there's a lot of suits coming to crypto. Lots of people in suits coming to crypto that are talking about alignments, talking about strategies, talking about blue sky thinking, talking about paradigm shifts, and all of those things that make your skin crawl. Listening to some of these people in suits, for me, is more horrifying than watching The Exorcist, because they don't mean anything, Mission statements. The customer is number one. Well, if the customer isn't number one, who are you? The staff aren't number one. The customer is always number one. The Genius Act aligned fund to support stablecoin reserve demand is launching a regulatory compliant fund to support stablecoin reserve demand. It has 10 trillion in assets. We know about these things. The firm says it's treasury-based liquidity fund. They need to work on their BSTBL things. They should have just called it Bullcoin or something. Has a goal of increasing liquidity for its clients while being within the framework of the US Genius Act, which passed earlier this year and created clear regulatory guidelines and stablecoins. What this means in simple terms is this. When you are a company that has a lot of money and you are regulated, you can't just go and buy Dixie Chain USD. You can't just go and buy Popcorn USD. You have to do everything by the book. And you have to invest in stable coins or hold stable coins, which are also regulated. So what this means is that BlackRock will produce a fund of stable coins which all check the boxes in America. So the PayPal stablecoin, the XRP Ripple stablecoin, Circle, Tether, they'll all be in there. And then when you have all of these other regulated, audited blue chip companies come along, they don't even have to think about it. They can just go, we're going to use BlackRock's, because it's already passing the Genius Act. It's already regulated. So this might not be very exciting for you. It might not be very exciting for a lot of stuff that you talk about or think about. But when you want money coming to crypto, when you want money piling into crypto to pump your bags, okay, you want regulation. We had all of those things we talked about for 2 or 3 years, didn't we? Regulation and adoption. Regulation and adoption. They were the two things we talked about for 3 years. And then we added the third one, which was interoperability. And then we said, you need to give crypto air, because we're all about good abbreviations. Adoption, interoperability, and regulation. This is exactly what we have wanted for 3 years. Okay, we wanted Biden gone, and we wanted some absolute cowboy to come in, deregulate everything, but then regulate the important things, because that's what was needed. We were being strangled by Gary Gensler, okay? And now we are going to see, within this regulation, we're going to see the stuff that matters regulated, and then off to the far corners, we're going to see some real cowboy plays, okay? We have to accept that if we want regulation. And we're going to get regulation. We're going to start seeing stuff like this. This is exciting for crypto. It's not exciting for you, but I would also be remiss to not talk about this kind of stuff, because it's important you understand that this is how money comes in. This is how the blockchain gets used. So many years we saw people saying, but who uses crypto? What's its use case? Well, its use case is money. And I'm sorry, but do you know how difficult it's going to be to move music or books or films? You can just scan them in stick them in a library, slap a Netflix logo on the front and go, there you go, all the movies are online. Books the same. Music the same. To move the financial institutions onto a blockchain does not take a minute. It takes years. Chainlink have been at this for 7 years. Next year is when they go absolutely supersonic. And they've got Visa, MasterCard, the banking system, XRP, all of the chains interconnected. They run everything. Prices, the lot. That does not take a few months. It takes a long time. And because you're in crypto expecting to do 100x gains before 4 o'clock, you just don't, you haven't got the patience for it. But it's here, almost here, but here. Now, talking about cowboys, World Liberty Financial, the Trump family DeFi project explained. Now, of course, they don't own the entire thing, which is what people like to make out. There is a board of about 30 of them with, funnily enough, a token woman on the board, which I find hilarious. They've already started to work on their own stablecoin. I think it's called USD1. I don't want to talk too much about this, but I brought it up for a reason. So the platform aims to keep the dollar digital and provides loans for institutions and everyday users, has launched a stablecoin called USD1. The family's involvement in World Liberty Financial and other crypto projects has sparked criticism from Democrat lawmakers over potential conflicts of interest and corruption. Now, if you said, let me just bring this up for a second. If you said to me, Nancy Pelosi makes $170,000 a year, and Nancy Pelosi is worth $330 million, and Nancy Pelosi is a Democrat, and her husband and herself are the greatest investors that have ever lived on this earth, and probably no one will ever outperform her in the future of the human race. And she's turned $170,000 a year, plus a few meals at banks. She's turned that into $330 million with the aid of what? Now, she's on one side, and then you've got Barron Trump, who is worth $150 million. Barron Trump is what? How old is he? 12, 18, 21? Not very old. He's worth $150 million, and most of that is from crypto gains. Now, how they made that money is of no concern to me. How they abused the system or didn't abuse the system or benefited from the system is of no use to me. What is of use to me is that the Trump family have a stable coin, and that stable coin is going to be massive because Trump is the president of America. Now, it might only have, I don't know, a $1 or $2 billion market cap. Mark my words, this is going to have a $30, $60 billion market cap within the next 3 years. And with that comes token burns on World Liberty Financial. Now, the tokenomics of this project are terrible. The team behind it, it's basically a copy and paste, but that's also irrelevant. What is relevant is the President of America has his own crypto project, and he owns a massive amount of those tokens, as does everybody else in his family, and they are going to use this stable coin to buy back and burn $1 to $2 to $3 billion of those tokens a year. That's what matters to me. Everything else, throw it in the bin. Does it make money? Nobody cares. How's it going to get there? Nobody cares. He's the president of America. He's got a project. He's going to pump this. This is his generational wealth for his family business. In 3 years' time, World Liberty Financial is likely to be worth $50 or $60 billion. The token, the stablecoin is going to be worth $30, $40, $50, $60 billion. And World Liberty Financial's token is going to go through the roof over the next 3 years. I can't guarantee it, but as close as I can say that the returns on this are going to be absolutely amazing. Because forget the fact he had a meme coin, forget the fact his wife had a meme coin, forget all of that nonsense. This is where the business is going to be with Trump. He is going to go after this, and I guarantee you he is going to make a success of it because of how much money is in it. He's already worth 1.5 billion or something in crypto. God knows how much his sons have got. And Barron Trump's worth $150 million, and he's barely out of nappies. So whatever I say about tokenomics, whatever I say about research on projects, everything goes out of the window when you have a man like Trump in power, and he has that much power for the next 3 years, that this is going to be a success. But also, believe you me, in 2029, the Democrats are going to go after that company like you have never seen before, because it will be a political move. So the time to sell those tokens is probably 2 or 3 weeks before the election in 2028. That's when I'd be looking to get out of that project. But until then, this is just going to keep going up. And people are going to call it a meme coin. People are going to call it what they want. I don't care. It's going to go up. And that's all that matters to me. Right then. Let me minimize this and come over here because we've way run over today. Solitaire, Fetch, okay, what for that? Satoshi, good morning, Tariq. By the end of the year, Satoshi, okay, right, okay. So no more messages to catch up on, which is great. Right, I am back tomorrow. And then Wednesday, I'm not streaming in the day. We've got the Mew quiz. The Mew quiz is going to be on Binance Square and the other place, which we normally are. So make sure to tune into that. If you have any questions, any problems, you can reach out to me. I'm on X. We have a Telegram group. We have all of those things. You can comment on any of the posts on Binance Square. Comment under the video on this, whatever it might be. You can ask questions. You can do what you want. And I will be back in the morning. Now, the Oracle, before I go, one last thing. The Oracle is not very well. He wasn't very well yesterday. So if he is not well today, he won't be streaming tonight. But if he is, then he'll be streaming at 9 o'clock, which is 9 hours from now, lip sync. So my mouth, I'm watching myself stream now. My mouth is not moving at the same time as my voice. I'm going to try and fix that, but I don't know how. I've already put a delay on it, and that's not working. So God knows. But anyway, thank you all for watching. See you all in the morning. Take care.